All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Liz Anderson. I am the project manager for the Florida Instructional Materials Center for the Visually Impaired, and we have with us today Kathy. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kathy Krumfleski. I'm the Braille and Accessible Assessment Specialist for FIMC.
And Karen.
Good afternoon. I am also a Braille and Accessible Assessment Specialist with FIMC.
Hi, thank you, ladies. And so I think most of you who are here who are familiar with us, but FIMC, we are a statewide resource center for K-12 students who are visually impaired and enrolled in a public school, private school, or students who are being homeschooled. We're located in the Hillsborough County Public School District, and we are an Individuals with Disabilities Education Act funded state project maintained by the Florida Department of Education Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services. And with that, our vision statement is that we are striving for access and success at the highest levels for all students with visual impairments. And our mission, part of what we're doing here today, is to promote the success of Florida students with visual impairments by providing free, high-quality, accessible instructional materials in a timely manner, and providing teachers, administrators, families, agency personnel, and others, Braille transcribers, with resources and opportunities for training and professional learning. And we provide a host of services. I'm not going to go into detail on these, but we do assist with accessible instructional materials, providing professional learning, assisting volunteer services for Braille, American Printing House for the blind products. We have a loan library, student and family events. The next one that's coming up is very soon, November 16th. That is our Cane Quest event here in Tampa. Quality program for students with visual impairments, and our print Braille early literacy program. You can find out more about these by going to our website, www.fimc-vi.org, or reaching out to any one of us. Our email information will be at the close of the webinar. We are recording this session, so in about, give us at least a week, we will post the recording and the handouts on the past events page under the Florida specific meetings and webinar section. And I'm just going to put our website in the chat real quick. And so our opening, sorry, we're not there yet. Our objectives for today are that we're providing program supervisors and teachers of students with visual impairments with Braille code updates and Florida assessments of student thinking, fast Braille formatting of sample test materials information. And we are providing in-service and/or ACVREP credit for those of you who are looking for that. So you're going to take note of the opening code for today's session, and at the end, I'll explain how to get credit. Your opening code is Braille. We'll type that in the chat. Opening code Braille. All right, and I think our next slide is going to be moving on to this session, but I hope that if you registered for this in advance, you got the email kind of telling you how to prepare for this webinar. There are a lot of slides here. So I'm going to put in the chat too, just in case you didn't see that email, you don't have the handouts, it might be helpful for you to refer to because there will be print versions of questions and then Braille versions of questions. So I'm going to put the link to the handout in the chat as well for anyone who maybe doesn't have that on hand. But with that, Kathy, I will let you take it away.
All right. Well, welcome and thanks for attending our Braille formatting for the Florida Statewide Assessments webinar today. Yes, because with the formatting of the webinar, I can only show one slide at a time. We tried to get the word out to everybody. We created special handouts for these, and we were really focused on wanting to give you a resource that you can use later on for brailing some of these things. So that was the intent. So there is a separate document, Word document, that has all of the notes from the entire presentation in it. And then there is a separate handout version of the PowerPoint that will differ slightly from the version we're projecting. But the idea was so that hopefully as you are watching this, you have either printed it or you have two screens so that you can see the print and see the Braille at the same time while I'm going over it, which I can't show. I can't show both at once. So that was the intent, and we were trying to get the word out early to do that. All right, so let's get to our main topic. First, a disclaimer. While I am very familiar with the Braille versions of all of the Florida statewide assessments, I am not an expert on Braille formats. I think we probably have some people on here that are, but I am not. I am a Library of Congress certified UEB Braille transcriber, but the course to obtain this certification only begins the process of teaching you about Braille formats. Transcribers are continually learning and improving their knowledge about Braille formats, which has a code book that's almost 700 pages long. We'll do our best to answer all your questions today, but if there is a question we can't answer today, we will search for the answer and get back to you. We will do our best to cover all of the information in this presentation, but we may run out of time. The idea of this presentation was to give you a resource that you can refer back to. This is also why we're giving you the special handout containing all the notes. Formatting matters for all Braille produced for children. The examples provided show test item formatting, but also gives great formatting examples that could be used when producing all variations of schoolwork for children. Quality formatting supports instruction and increases success rates for Braille reading potential. So while this focuses on test items, please think of how you can apply what you learn to anything you Braille for students. So our agenda, we've done the welcome. We're going to move next into the Braille code information. Florida Statewide Assessments Braille formatting of the sample tests is what we'll go into next. Hopefully around 3:10 we'll be out in the resources and have time for follow-up evaluations, questions, and then hopefully we'll end at 3:30. All right, so acronyms we use. We want to be sure that everyone's familiar with the acronyms that we use throughout the presentation. We have APH, American Printing House for the Blind, BANA, the Braille Authority of North America, BEST, which is the Benchmarks for Excellent Student Thinking, and EOC, End of Course Assessment, FAST, Florida Assessment of Student Thinking, FDOE, the Florida Department of Education, FIMC-VI, Florida Instructional Materials Center for the Visually Impaired, STMs, their sample test materials, TNs, transcribers notes, TVI, teacher of the visually impaired. UEB is for Unified English Braille, and then we have UEBN, Unified English Braille with Nemeth, and UEBMS, Unified English Braille Math Science. So Braille versions available for 2024-25 for FAST, FAST Star, BEST, Science and Social Studies. So all assessments will be available in hard copy, paper-based Braille this year, with the exception of STAR Early Literacy, which does not have Braille due to its formatting. So for the FAST Star reading, Fast Reading, Best Writing, and Social Studies, including the Florida Civic Literacy Examination, which we call the FCLE. It's going to be available in either contracted or uncontracted Unified English Braille. For the Fast Star Math, the Fast Math, the Best Math EOCs, and for the Science, they're available in 4 codes: contracted UEB Math Science, uncontracted UEBMS, contracted UEB with Nemeth, and uncontracted UEB with Nemeth. All right, so starting at the very basics, Braille is created using individual units we call Braille cells. Each Braille cell consists of 3 vertically aligned dots on the left labeled from top to bottom 1, 2, 3. And 3 vertically aligned dots on the right labeled from top to bottom 4, 5, 6. Braille cells must be kept a specific size to keep them readable tactually. Each Braille symbol is created using 1 or more Braille cells. The typical size for one Braille page in textbooks and assessments is 11.5 inches wide by 11 inches long. This allows for 40 cells of Braille from left to right, and 25 lines of Braille from top to bottom. Braille formatting is all about where the Braille is placed on the page to make reading efficient, consistent, and easy to navigate. So first, the K-2 test structure sample test materials. So we're going to review the formatting guidelines for the FAST STAR tests, and that's these K-2 tests. And those guidelines were based on BANA's guidelines for the transcription of early educational materials from print to Braille. And on our resources page, we'll have a link to this document that you can look it up. We're going to look at some sample test materials for FAST STAR reading and math. All right, so an overview on some of this stuff. The FAST STAR sample test materials formatting guidelines for spacing and artwork. So for spacing, for grades 1 and 2, the Braille's double spaced, okay? But with double spaced Braille, there are exceptions. These exceptions include listed title pages, which will be single spaced. Tables, including column heading and separation line, will be single spaced. Titles and labels on tactile graphics will be single spaced. Spatial math equations will be single spaced. And no blank line after a top or bottom box line. Other than that, everything K-1 will be double spaced. Grade 2 is single spaced. For artwork, so an example of the artwork might be cars, trains, frogs with lily pads, things like that. They're going to be omitted from all tests unless a question specifically references the artwork and needs it. Clocks, if shown shaded in print, we omit shading in the tactile graphics because we don't need it. All right, FAST STAR sample test material formatting guidelines for font attributes. So for grades K-2, within one item, we're only going to choose to use one font attribute. So if the regular test, if the same word is shown in italics, underline, and or bold, in Braille, we'll present all of them as underline. If several words are presented in italics within an item, then italics will be retained because it's all the same attribute within that item. In math tests, all the font attributes are omitted. They have enough to deal with the math content. They don't need to add that to it. Modified letters, such as accent marks, are going to be omitted unless it's vital to the construct of the question or changes the meaning of the word. All right, so now we're going to get the FAST STAR sample test materials formatting guidelines, mathematical items. So formatting within mathematical items and equations for grades K-1, for the UEB Math Science, spaces are added around both the signs of comparison and the signs of operation. But in the Nemeth version, the spaces are going to be added around the signs of comparison, but not the signs of operation. And numeric indicator will not be inserted between a sign of operation and a number. For grade 2 materials, all codes are presented without spaces around signs of operation. And for grade K-2, shapes used as signs of omission will be shown as tactile graphic shapes, not as Braille characters. For tally marks, they're going to be brailled the same way in Nemeth and UEBMS using 5 tally marks. UEBMS's optional strike through of .25, it will not be used. This way that the presentation will be the same in both codes. And also note that when writing the dot numbers for a cell, like in that last bullet, there's not a hyphen or a comma if the dots are presented in the same cell. The comma is added if the dots are in 2 different cells, and just kind of giving you an idea of what you're looking at in the PowerPoint and how it'll be presented. All right, Fast Star Reading Grade 1 Sample Test. So this covers short passage with a tactile graphic. So this shows how a passage for younger students is formatted and then how to incorporate a graphic into it. So I'm going to go to the Braille. A running head in Braille is the title or part of the title of a document placed on the blank line, first blank line of every Braille page, except the title page and print page 1, which always has the full title of the document. And we're going to take a little sidetrack here about running heads. So for the operational Fast Star grades 8 to reading and math tests, the Fast grades 3 to 10 reading and math tests, and the best grades 4 to 10 writing tests, they do not contain running heads. Sample test materials for Fast Star grades 8 to reading and math tests, as well as Fast grades 3 to 8 math tests, do not contain running heads. However, currently, sample test materials for Fast grades 3 to 10 reading tests and the best grades 4 to 10 writing tests still do contain running heads. However, the next time these tests are revised, the running heads will be removed. So they just have them until we revise them again. Operational and sample test materials for the science, though, and social studies, and the math EOCs, meaning algebra and geometry, all of those tests will contain running heads. Some of the tests have it and some of them don't. All right, so back to our example here for grade 1 with the Braille. First, you have the item identifier number 4, and that's going to start in cell 1 of line 1. With the heading, bold is not needed since it was made a cell 5 heading, and its placement on the page calls attention to the same way bold does for sighted readers. Since this Braille is double-spaced, after 4, there is one blank line for the double space and another blank line because of the cell 5 heading. Thus, 2 blank lines between the number 4 and the word skunks. Passage is in 1-3. It starts in cell 1, and any line runovers would start in cell 3. On the second page, in the middle, the transcriber's note is inserted prior to the graphic in 7-5. It starts in cell 7, and the runover will start in cell 5 after a blank line for double spacing. The first 3-cell symbol is the opening transcriber's note indicator, alerting the Braille reader that what follows is not in print and is information the transcriber thinks the Braille reader needs to know. The last 3-cell symbol is the closing transcriber's note indicator, letting the Braille reader know that the content added by the transcriber is finished. By the way, it is called an indicator because it is something used in the Braille, but it does not have a corresponding symbol in print and does not exist in print. The question and answer choices are moved to the third Braille page on the right. So they are all on the same page, which is the preference. If the question and answer choices cannot fit onto one Braille page, then the Braille is adjusted to keep all the answer choices on the same page. The upper right corner is always the print page number, and the lower right corner is always the Braille page number. The question is in 1-3. Notice that at least 3 Braille cells are kept between the question and the print page number on line 1. This is a Braille formats rule for line 1 and the last line, 25. So the print and Braille page numbers are never confused with the main content on the page. Also, note that there's a lowercase a with the second print page number in the middle picture and a lowercase b with the third print page number in the picture on the right. This is how Braille helps inform the reader that the content on print page 6 requires 3 pages in Braille, page 6, A6, and B6. Answer choices are in 3-5. This formatting is strategic so that students can quickly run their hand down a page and know where on the page to expect the question or answer choices to start, creating consistency, which is why the Braille Authority of North America, BANA, creates these guidelines and code books so that all materials in North America are Braille the same way. All right, Fast Star Reading Grade 1 STM, image descriptions. This shows how images can be transcribed into image descriptions. In this instance, the sentences from the passage were used as the picture descriptions. Most of the time, however, unique descriptions need to be created and implemented. I'm going to go to the Braille version. So here, there's no running head. The item identifier, number 5, in cell 1 of line 1. The heading of the tree is a cell 5 heading without bold and preceded by a blank line after the blank line for double spacing. The passage is in 1-3. It starts in cell 1, and any line runovers would start in cell 3 after a blank line for double spacing. Question 3, the question is in 1-3, the same as the passage, and the answer choices are in 3-5. The pictures are omitted and replaced with picture descriptions. Fast Star Math, Grade 1 STM, simplified pictograph. So throughout the tests for these lower grades, pictures and artwork are added. I believe these are intended to try to get these young students to engage better with the assessments. However, this does not have the same impact for our students who read Braille. This example shows how we sometimes simplify content in this case, a pictograph, by replacing more complex images with something the student should be familiar with, such as basic shapes. The goal of the question is to determine if the student can do the math, not whether they can interpret a complex versus a simple tactile graphic. We're going to go to the Braille. There's still no running head. The audio icon is for the test administrators to signal that they can read the first part of the question to the students, but not the answer choices. There is only one audio icon. We omit the audio icon from the Braille versions. So you've got the item identifier number 1 with the stimulus containing the question, and that's going to be in 1-5. Please note that the print page number says A3 because on print page 2-3, the directions are added prior to item number 1. The test does not have these directions, but to prepare our students for how the operational tests will appear, we included these directions in the sample test materials. Given that the students taking these lower grade level tests are still in the process of learning to read Braille and tactile graphics, we recommended replacing the fish with a basic shape of a triangle to decrease the complexity of the tactile graphics. In accordance with this, the wording is changed to read, how many more triangles did Sid have than Nico? Select the correct number of triangles. Also, the title of the pictograph is changed to read number of triangles. Blank line before and after the tactile graphic, in this case, the pictograph, but notice no blank line between the title of the pictograph and the pictograph. This is one of the exceptions to the double space rules we talked about. Answer choices are in 3-5. Only one image of the Braille needed to be shown because it is Braille the exact same way in both UEBMS and UEBN. This is because there are no special math symbols included, just regular numbers which are read without difficulty in either code. Fast Star Kindergarten Math STM, tactile graphic with TN and manipulative. This example shows a tactile graphic that also has a transcriber's note and manipulatives. And so I'm going to go to the Braille version. There's still no running head. There are two audio icons in this item indicating that the teacher can read the stimulus question part and the answer choices. Both icons are omitted from the Braille versions. This transcriber's note is placed first prior to the item identifier on Braille line 1, starting in cell 7 with runovers in cell 5 after the blank line for double spacing. It begins with the 3-cell opening transcriber's note indicator and followed without a space by the following sentence. Please raise your hand and ask your teacher for help. Immediately after the period, with no extra space, the last 3 cells are the closing transcriber's note indicator. This TN is included because the test administrator needs to provide manipulatives, 1 tens rod and 7 ones cubes, for the student to use and set up as is shown in print and the tactile graphic. It is the test administrator's responsibility to provide these manipulatives as well as coins for manipulatives. Other manipulatives for operational tests may be shipped to districts by FIMC-VI. The Braille Notes print document clipped to the inside front cover of every Braille test volume will alert the test administrator to any items that have a pen, such as this, and whether the manipulative needs to be provided by the test administrator or if it will be shipped from FIMC-VI. The Braille Notes will also alert the test administrator about how many and what types of coins need to be provided for items involving coins. A blank line for double spacing follows, but not 2 blank lines, as if this was single-spaced Braille. There would not be a blank line between the TN and the next content. Item identifier number 1 with the stimulus containing the directions is in 1-5. A reminder, the print page is A3 because the previous page has the directions. Blank line for double spacing and a second blank line because it is preferred to have at least 1 blank line before and after a tactile graphic. Notice that tactile graphics, the 3D cubes, are presented more simply as 2D tactile squares. Answer choices are in 3-5. Only 1 image of the Braille needed to be shown because it is Braille the exact same way in both UEBMS and UEBN. This is because there are no special math symbols included, just regular numbers which are read without difficulty in either code. All right, moving on into English Language Arts text structure for the sample test materials. So formats are based on BANA's Braille formats, Principles of Print to Braille Transcription 2016. And on the resource slide, there's a link for this document as well. So all tests for grades 3 to 12 in all subjects will use this BANA Braille formatting. And we're going to look at some of the sample test materials for FAST and BEST. And there's going to be screenshots of questions from different levels of language arts with emphasis on potential issues for students with visual impairments. So for the BEST writing sample test materials, the BEST writing uses the same formatting for passages as the ELA reading. The only information specific to BEST writing is the prompt. And to address the writing prompt, 3 to 4 sources or passages are given to students to read, but these quote-unquote passages can also be, or it can include pictures, graphics, etc. All right, BEST writing grade 4 STM prompt. So we've got a friendly reminder that all the tests for grades 2 to 12 are in single-space Braille. So all our remaining examples will be single-space Braille. As we have already stated, the current sample test materials for writing and reading still contain the running heads until the next time these are revised. So, and I'm going to go to Braille now. So Braille line 1 contains the centered running head, and It's all caps best, cap writing, number 4, lowercase si. I wrote the running head in print to match what the Braille actually says as if it was interlined. SI stands for sample items. We found out recently terminology sample items is used when referring to items on the computer-based test items, and sample test materials is used when referring to paper-based test materials. These running heads were decided prior to understanding the difference in the terminology. So notice that the SI in the running head is not capitalized. Capitalization and punctuation are adjusted when creating running heads to make it fit as a centered heading with the most information possible. Next is writing prompt, treated as a centered heading, which needs a blank line before and after it, but it does not need to be in bold, since its placement on the page as a centered heading provides the emphasis in Braille the way bold does for print readers. Adding bold with the centered heading would just add extra Braille symbols to the heading that a student would need to read. Since all the print paragraphs appear to be quote unquote blocked, meaning they start at the left margin and return to the left margin for any runovers, the Braille is done the same way by starting in cell 1 and all runovers in cell 1. The bullets start in cell 1 with runovers in cell 3 and have a blank line before the first bullet and after the last bullet, which continues onto the next Braille page. Each bullet begins with the 2-cell Braille symbol for a circular period type bullet, followed by a space and then the content. If the bullets were a different shape, the Braille symbol might be different to match the different shape. However, in our standardized tests, all the bullets consistently look like this. Note that the last sentence is changed for the Braille version to read, write a multi-paragraph essay to an academic audience on the Braille paper provided. This is a mistake we realized too late to fix, and we can't change it until the next revision of the sample test materials. Unlike operational Braille tests, for the sample test materials, Braille paper is not provided. It should read, write your multi-paragraph essay to an academic audience on your Braille paper. This is how some of the other sample test material directions are worded. All right, fast ELA reading sample test materials. ELA reading uses the same formatting for passages as ELA writing. Grades 3 to 10 reading have questions presented in a table format. Footnotes are for grades 6 to 10 will appear on the following Braille line, and make sure to be aware of Braille formats for plays and poetry because the indentation formatting can be confusing if it's unfamiliar to the student. The Fast ELA Grade 3 STM passage with headings. This shows how the beginning of a passage is set up. Note that the headings and the paragraph numbers are included prior to the start of the text of each paragraph. And we're going to go to the Braille. So the running head, you have all caps fast, lowercase ELA, cap reading number 3 SI. Centered on Braille line, centered on the first Braille line. Notice the page number shows number 3 hyphen number 4. When creating Braille transcriptions, all print page numbers, including blank pages, must be accounted for. In the print, Braille page 3 only has blank page written on it. Therefore, in Braille, print page 3 and 4 are combined to be print page 3-4 on a single Braille page with only the content from print page 4 shown. Here, the directions are in 1-1, block following print. No blank line between the running head and the directions and no bold. The title is a centered heading that is so long it runs over to the next Braille line. A blank line before and after, and no bold is retained. For the author, centered heading, already a blank line between and the title, so just add a blank line after it. You would not have two blank lines between the title and the author. Heading. Cell 5 headings blocked in 5.5 preceded by a blank line, which is already there because of the author being a centered heading, and then no bold. The paragraphs are in 3.1. They begin in cell 3 with the paragraph number, then a blank space, and followed by the text of the paragraph with runovers in cell 1. All right, FAST-DLA grade 3 STM, the passage with a glossary. This shows how a glossary is included at the end of a passage. Paragraph, and so then we're going to go to the Braille. So paragraph 13, as shown in this picture, is actually on the previous Braille page 5, which would be print page 5. It would be in 3.1, begin with the paragraph number, space, then the content. This is the top 3 lines of Braille with the blank line containing the Braille page number 5. The solid black line that comes next indicates you are moving on to the next Braille page, which is print page A5, and contains the centered running head on line 1, Fast ELA Reading 3 SI. Since there was not enough room on print page 5, Braille page 5, to fit the top box line with at least one line of text on the Braille page, the whole glossary was moved to print page A5, which is Braille page 6. This is a blank line, there is a blank line before the top box line made from a row of dots 2, 3, 5, 6 across the width of the page. And a blank line after the bottom box line made from a row of dots 1, 2, 4, 5 across the width of the page. On the next Braille line below the top box line, the word glossary is written as a centered heading followed by a blank line, but not preceded by a blank line because it is within a box. Glossary entries are in 1-3 with no space between the 2 different entries and no space between the last entry and the bottom box line. The source or copyright information is blocked in 5.5 and included in our assessment after the content to which it applies and follows where it is placed in print. This is something we specified for Florida statewide assessments and does not always align with where Braille format states it should be placed. Braille format was written for textbooks. Source information should be placed at the most appropriate location in section 9.5.1a, but permission to copy statements must follow the title information, section 9.5.5. In tests, this information has to be included for copyright reasons, but moving these extra details to immediately following the title of the source is more disruptive. Putting them all at the end of the material builds consistency as well. FAST-DLA Reading Grade 3 STM, Part A and Part B layout. All right, I'm going to go to the Braille for this. So the running head is FAST-DLA Reading 3 SI. It's centered on Braille line 1. The item identifier 9 with the first paragraph is in 1.7. Parts A and B with following sentences are each in 3.7, including bold word and symbol indicators since it is not being treated as a cell 5 heading. So there we are going to include the bold. The excerpt displayed material is in 11.9. with blank lines before and after. So displayed material begins 2 cells to the right of where the runover starts. On this page, all runovers start in cell 7. Since this excerpt comes from the beginning of an indented paragraph within the passage, it is going to start an additional 2 cells to the right of where the displayed material usually begins. This is why it starts in cell 11, with 4 cells to the right plus 7 cells for where the runover starts. 7 plus 4 equals 11 cells. And the runover is in cell 9. 2 cells to the right plus 7 cells where the runover starts. 7 plus 2 equals 9. The questions are in 3-7, and then the answer choices are in 5-7. Fast DLA Reading Grade 3 STM. Table format. So this is what it looks like in print. And then I'm going to go to the Braille, and this is how we deal with it in Braille. So first, at the top of the page, you've got the running head, Fast DLA Reading 3 SI, centered on Braille line 1. Item identifier 7 with the first paragraph is in 1-5. And that paragraph is modified to read, write the letters to show instead of fill in the bubbles to show. The table we change so that each row heading is presented separately, followed by its corresponding answer choices listed vertically. The blank lines are inserted before the table and between each row containing the row heading and the answer choices together. The row heading, the first one begins "Cats are grouped," will be in 5-5. The answer choices will be in 3-5. The Fast DLA Reading Grade 7 STM. This has an excerpt. It shows an excerpt in an item with the paragraph citation following the excerpt. And I'm going to go to the Braille. At the top, the running head is Fast DLA Reading 7 SI, centered on Braille line 1. Then you've got the item identifier number 9 with the first sentence in 1-5. The excerpt displayed material is blocked in 7-7 with blank lines before and after. Displayed material begins 2 cells to the right of where the runover starts, and on this page, all runovers start in cell 5. 2 cells to the right plus 5 cells for where the runover starts. 5 plus 2 equals 7. So transcribing is both an art and a science with many nuances that depend on how the transcriber interprets what the print is showing. Therefore, at times, there can be more than one way to present something, and both are correct based on that interpretation. UEB is all about following print, but which print do you follow when you have an excerpt in an item taken from a passage? Do you focus on the original passage formatting where the excerpt came from, or the formatting of the excerpt inside the item? If you look back at the passage, this excerpt was taken from paragraph 10 is intended. However, if you are just looking at the exercise materials, the question section that contains excerpts in the Fast DLA Grade 7 Reading STM, most of the excerpts within these items are in block formatting, but there is one excerpt in an item we did not show you that shows an indented paragraph. So to keep the questions consistent with the print as shown in the item, the excerpt in this item was treated as a block paragraph the way it is shown in print. In other words, the transcriber of item 9 in the grade 3 reading STM was basing the formatting on the formatting of the paragraph within the passage where the excerpt was taken from. And the transcriber of this item 9 in the grade 7 reading STM was doing formatting based on the appearance of the excerpt in print for this item. Both ways are easily read by the student, so as long as each transcriber is consistent throughout his or her specific test, it is acceptable to Braille it either way. And you've got the questions are in 7-5 and the answer choices are in 3-5. All right, fast DLA reading grade 8 STM. Answer choices in paragraph form. This example shows a question with multiple parts, and in part B, answer choices are in paragraph format preceded by the paragraph number 6. I'm going to go to the Braille now. Keep the question and all its corresponding answer choices on the same Braille page for each part. Part A was placed on one Braille page and Part B was placed on the next Braille page. At the top, you've got the running head Fast DLA Reading 8 SI, centered on Braille line 1 of both Braille pages shown. Item identifier 2 with the first paragraph is in 1-7. For both Part A and Part B, the sentences that follow each part are in 3-7, including bold word and symbol indicators. So all answer choices for both Part A and Part B are going to be presented in 5-7. Within Part B, the fill in the bubble before the sentence is modified to read, write the letter of the sentence. The paragraph number 6 is changed to be a transcriber's note on the Braille line prior to answer choice A in 7-5 with no blank lines before and after. And shown as follows. You've got opening transcriber's note symbol. The word paragraph is added next without a space between the opening indicator and the word. Then the number 6 and ending with the closing transcriber's note symbol immediately following the number without a space. Note that the word paragraph is not capitalized. Answer choices are usually listed, so this is why the paragraph format is changed here, and the number 6 applies to all of these answer choices. So that's why it was moved before, and the random floating 6 and a random floating 6 before the answer choices would have been weird. So that's why adding the word paragraph. All right, Fast DLA Reading Grade 9 STM. Answer choices in paragraph form with paragraph label at the end. So this example shows answer choices with paragraph form with the paragraph label at the end of all the answer choices and enclosed in parentheses. I'm going to go to the Braille. The running head, you've got Fast DLA Reading 9 SI, centered on Braille line 1. So Braille format section 10.2.1 states that directions have to be on Braille line 3 when there is a running head, leaving a blank line between the running head and the directions. If there was not a running head, the directions could begin on Braille line 1. So the directions are in 5-5. You've got the item identifier number 1 with the first paragraph. It's in 1-5. Fill in the bubble before the sentence is modified to read, write the letter of the sentence. The answer choices are in 3-5. The paragraph citation, parentheses, paragraph number 2, close parentheses, is moved to be a transcriber's note on the Braille line prior to answer choice A in 7-5 with no blank line before or after. The parentheses are replaced with opening and closing transcriber note indicators, and so it is shown as follows. You have opening PN symbol, the word paragraph without a space between the opening PN indicator and the word, then the number 2 and ending with the closing PN symbol immediately following the number 2 without a space. Again, with this item, answer choices are usually listed. paragraph 2 applies to all of the answer choices and is not part of answer choice E. So it is moved to precede all of the answer choices. All right, fast ELA reading grade 10 STM. So answers in paragraph with text attribute. So here you can see we've got underlined word answer choices within a paragraph in the print. I'm going to go to the Braille, and it's highlighted in the Braille as well for easier spotting. So the running head, you've got fast ELA reading 10 SI. Centered on Braille line 1, you have item identifier 2 with the first paragraph in 1-5. The first sentence is modified to read, write the letter of the word. Excerpt paragraph is displayed material, so it's 9-7 with blank lines before and after. This transcriber was most likely basing the formatting on the original paragraph 3 within the passage, which is indented, instead of focusing on the formatting shown in this item, which shows the paragraph block. In the excerpt, answer choice letters are removed and underlined words are retained. Once the answer choice letters are removed, this becomes like any other excerpt that has the source information at the end, so follow print and leave paragraph 3 at the end of the excerpt. The answer choice letters that were removed from the excerpt paragraph are presented in list format, 3-5, with their corresponding words after the paragraph and blank line that follows displayed material. All right, fast ELA reading STM footnotes. So grades 6 to 10 contain footnotes using formatting FIMC-VI designated. These appear on the following Braille line. So in Braille formats 2016, and you've got the grade 1 symbol indicators and grade 1 terminators are used as needed to allow for contractions within footnote definitions in contracted Braille versions. But please note, the grade 1 symbol indicators are needed within footnote definitions in uncontracted Braille versions only when the superscript number is immediately followed by a lowercase letter A to J to prevent these letters from being read as numbers. And we're going to see examples of this. So in Braille formats 2016, footnote definitions are moved to the end of the corresponding print page. Given the high stakes nature of statewide assessments and the length of these tests, we felt it was more beneficial for all Braille readers, especially struggling Braille readers, to have the footnote definition immediately follow the footnote on the next Braille line, instead of having to scan one or multiple Braille pages to find the footnote definition at the end of the print page, and then backtrack to where the original footnote is indicated. So we specify this unique formatting in the production specifications for Florida Statewide Assessments. This designated formatting follows print for the reference mark, presents it on the next Braille line, and always has it blocked 4 cells from the runover position, which we will show and explain in upcoming slides. It should be clear no matter the print layout. Also, please note that if you search in Braille formats for the term footnotes, you will not find anything. In Braille formats 2016, all types of notes, including footnotes, are simply called notes in section 16. The type of footnotes we have in our assessments are called reference marks. So in the contracted version, you would need a grade 1 symbol indicator prior to every superscript indicator, and then decide if the footnote definition, whether an indicator is needed or not after the superscript number. If it is needed, you have to determine whether to use a grade 1 symbol indicator or a grade 1 terminator. In uncontracted Braille versions, none of the superscript indicators need a grade 1 symbol indicator because the whole translation is uncontracted. but you still need the grade 1 symbol indicator to distinguish between a lowercase a through j from being read as a number when it follows unspaced after a number. All right, FAST-DLA reading grade 6 STM, footnotes in passages. And we've got the footnotes highlighted in the print. And this example shows footnotes within paragraphs in a passage. I'm going to use the terminology of footnote and reference mark interchangeably because I'm going to be talking about both the print and the Braille at different times. In the print version, the footnotes are in the third line of paragraph 7 and the fourth line of paragraph 9. Sorry, jumping. The talk about the reference marks are the 5th and 6th lines of the Braille. So this example shows footnotes within paragraphs in a passage. All right, in the print version we talked about. In the Braille version, the reference marks are on the 5th and 6th lines of Braille and the 17th and 19th lines of Braille shown in the SimBraille example. Please note that these are not the actual Braille lines for the page, since we had to capture the transition between pages when we made this picture. It is based on counting the lines that have Braille shown from the top of the picture to the bottom. So the paragraphs are in 3-1, beginning with the paragraph number, a space, and then the content. The reference marks included as shown in print with the text continuing to finish that Braille line. For footnote number 1, you have table superscript 1. The amendment was defeated with A. Then the footnote definition on the next Braille line, and the following Braille line finishes this paragraph with number 48 hyphen number 48 I period. Please note that you need the grade 1 symbol indicator prior to the superscript indicator with the footnote number. Otherwise, it would be read in Braille as table IN number 1 because the superscript indicator is also the contraction for IN. Reference mark definition is in 5.5. Note that you need the grade 1 symbol indicator prior to the superscript indicator with the footnote number, again, for the same reason. In the reference mark definition for table, you do not need any indicators between the superscript 1 and the whole word table because it is not a letter that can be confused with a number. In other words, it's not A through J. And it does not contain any contractions. In the reference mark definition for anti-suffrage, a grade 1 symbol indicator is needed between the superscript 2 and the letter A in anti. Otherwise, it would be read as in Braille as 21 NPI. Question: can the FF contraction be used in the word suffrage? Please put your answers in the chat. And I don't have the chat up, so please let me know.
Let's give them a second to type. Let's see if they can tell us. All right, we have one yes from Linda.
Should I give it some more time or?
I think Linda's got it. She knows.
All right.
So why don't you tell them why?
Contraction be used in self-reg? Yes. The hyphen cancels grade 1 mode. So yes, it can be used because even though the numeric indicator starts both numeric mode and grade 1 mode, the hyphen cancels grade 1 mode. So friendly reminder that when the numeric indicator starts grade 1 mode, the only things that cancel this grade 1 mode are a hyphen, a space, a dash, or a grade 1 terminator. Great job, Linda. All right. So fast DLA reading grade 6 STM. Footnotes and passages example 2. The second example of footnotes in passages shows some of the nuances when dealing with footnotes in Braille. In the print version, the footnotes are in the 4th line of paragraph 10 and the 2nd line of paragraph 11, highlighted in orange. In the Braille version, the reference marks are on the 7th through the 10th lines of Braille and the 15th through the 17th lines of Braille, not counting the blank line. Shown in this SimBraille example, please note that these are not the actual Braille lines for the page. Since we had to capture the transition between pages when we made this picture, it's based on counting the lines that have Braille shown from the top of the picture to the bottom. Page change indicator, the series of dots 3-6 across the page, starting print page 13, partway down the Braille page 14, noted in the bottom right corner. And then you have paragraph number 10. It's in 3-3. It's blocked following the print layout and displayed in 3-3 following the 3-1 paragraph. Therefore, blank lines are needed before and after. Paragraph 11 is in 3-1, indented following the print layout. The reference marks included as shown in print with the text continuing to finish that Braille line, the same way as the previous slide. Here too, the grade 1 symbol indicators are needed prior to the superscript indicators with the footnote numbers for the same reason. Reference mark definition is in 5.5. Again, the grade 1 symbol indicators are also needed prior to the superscript indicators with the footnote numbers. In the reference mark definition for commas, the capital T cannot be confused for anything. However, the preference is always to include contractions if possible. So since this word starts with TH, a grade 1 terminator should be used between the number 3 and commas. Question: in the reference mark definition for constituents, what would you use prior to constituents? Please put your answer in the chat.
We'll give them just a minute to type their answers in there. All right, I think you might have to explain it this time.
All
right.
right.
See any responses?
Okay. So either a grade 1 symbol indicator or a grade 1 terminator needs to be included between the number 4 and the word constituents, because otherwise the C could be read as a number 3. But if you use a grade 1 symbol indicator, it means you could not use the 3 different contractions, CON, ST, and EN, because grade 1 mode started by the numeric indicator is still in effect. Therefore, the better choice is to use the grade 1 terminator so the word can be fully contracted. So grade 1 terminator is the best choice. And by the way, also in that situation, you would not be able to use in the footnote definition the CON, because the CON has to be the first thing. And in this case, the footnote indicator would be the first thing, but you would still be able to use the ST and the EN.
We did get a couple of responses. I guess I didn't wait quite long enough. So
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Fast DLA reading grade 4 STM, poem format. And this example shows poetry formatting. Braille Formats 2016, section 13.3 states that for poetry formatting in stanza or verse form, indentation pattern is based on the entire poem. The main entry begins in cell 1. Each sub-entry level, the next indentation, begins 2 cells to the right of the previous level. All runovers begin 2 cells to the right of the farthest indented level. Also, a blank line is inserted before and after a poem. In this poem, everything was aligned at the left margin except this one small section of the poem shown in the print.
Okay. Can you show us the Braille so we can see the Braille?
Yes. Okay.
There you go. Because then we'll see how it's indented. There you go. Thank you.
We see most lines starting in the left margin, but within line 44, the line is broken into 3 lines with each progressive line indented further to the right. We know all 3 of these lines are line 44 because of the line numbers on the left in print, which will be placed on the right in the Braille version. Since there are 3 levels of indentation within line 44, the first part of 44 that reads to take will match all the other lines in 1/7. The next part of line 44, a little, will be in 3/7. The last part of line 44, snooze, will be in 5/7. There is a blank line between each stanza in Braille, the same as print. Now look at the picture of the SimBraille. The line numbers in Braille are shown in the right margin, opposite of the print. First, there is a page change indicator starting print page 16, partway down Braille page 18, shown in the bottom right corner before the solid black line noting the change to a new Braille page. The line 33 to 43 is in 1/7. Line 44 to take is in 1/7. Line 44, a little, is in 3/7. Line 44, snoozy, in 5/7. Line 45 to 48 is in 1/7. Please note that a stanza can begin on one Braille page and end on another, if you see lines 45 to 48. But an individual line of poetry may not be divided between Braille pages. Notice also that there is no Braille on the last line of Braille page 18. With poetry that contains line numbers, nothing can be brailled on line 1 or line 25 of the Braille page because at the right margin of line 1, there already is a number for the print page number. And at the bottom right margin of line 25 is already a number for the Braille page number. In this instance, there is also a running head on line 1. Fast DLA reading grade 10 STM, poem format with footnotes. This example shows poetry format with footnotes or reference marks included. All the lines in this poem start at the left margin, so there is only one level of indentation, and therefore each line will be 1/3. I'm going to go to the Braille. Notice there is a blank line in both the print and Braille versions between lines 14 and 15 for the change from one stanza to the next. In the Braille version, this is why there is that extra blank space on the bottom of Braille page 18. Braille line 24 of Braille page 18 is the blank line between the stanzas. Poetry is not placed on Braille line 25 because of the Braille page number, and then the running head is on Braille line 1 at the top of the next Braille page. So poetry line number 15 is placed on Braille line 2 on Braille page 19, with the poetry line number immediately below the print page number A16. Poetry line number 13 contains the first footnote, highlighted in orange in the print picture, at the end of that line. In the picture of the sim Braille, it is on the fourth line of Braille, counting down from the top, and it is at the end of the line, and it's highlighted in like a fuchsia color. Reminder that with both the initial reference marks and the reference mark definitions, grade 1 symbol indicators are needed prior to the superscript indicators and the footnote numbers in contracted Braille versions. Unlike the reference mark definitions in the Braille passages, these reference mark definitions will be in 7.7. The designated formatting for footnotes places these on the Braille line immediately following the appearance of the reference mark and block 4 cells from the runover. Since this poem is in 1-3, then 4 cells to the right of the runover 3 is 7, because 4 plus 3 equals 7. For the reference mark definition of art thou, a grade 1 terminator should be used so the WH contraction can be used. Since art and thou are separate words standing alone, there is no problem using contractions with them. And notice thou does need to be italicized in Braille the same way it is in print, with the italic word indicator prior to the word. For the second reference mark definition of abashed, a grade 1 terminator is best because it allows for using the SH and ED contractions and still prevents the letter A from being read as the number 1. For the third reference mark definition of reproof, a grade 1 terminator is used so that the of contraction can be used. Social studies. Social studies text structured sample test material examples. So all questions are multiple choice. Tables may be included. We're going to use current Braille formats to transcribe items and see examples from other subjects, math and biology. All right. So this example shows how a picture description, a photograph in this instance, is brailled. Running head is US HIST sample items, centered on Braille line 1. Item identifier number 2 with the first sentence in 1.5. The description is added on the next Braille line in 7.5 and enclosed in opening and closing transcribers note symbols. Source information follows on the next Braille line, also in 7.5, with the required blank line following it. The question is in 5.5, and the answer choices are in 3.5. So then we've got a US History STM cartoon description. This example shows how a cartoon description is brailled. Braille formats has specific instructions regarding cartoons. You can see section 14.10. So in the Braille, the running head at the top is U.S. HIST sample item, centered on Braille line 1. The item identifier number 5 with the first sentence is in 1.5. For cartoons, a blank line is inserted before and after the cartoon. Since this is a single frame cartoon, the description is done in 7.5. The word cartoon must be inserted and the whole thing enclosed in transcriber's note symbol. In this example, cell 7 starts with the opening transcriber's note indicator. Following that, without a space, is the sentence kept a cartoon drawing, period. The description of the cartoon is next, and the closing transcriber's note indicator ends the description. Source information follows on the next Braille line, also in 7.5. Then the blank line that follows a cartoon. Then you have question is in 5.5, and the answer choices are in 3.5. So with U.S. History STM, a picture versus a cartoon description. So for the picture description, it's in Braille format section 6. For the cartoon, it's in Braille section format 14. With a picture description, you do not leave a blank line before and after unless another formatting rule requires a blank line. With the cartoon description, you leave a blank line before and after the description. And then for the picture description, this example, the blank line after is due to the source material needing a blank line after it. All right, math test structure, sample test material examples. Let's look at some sample test materials for FAST BEST. Screenshots of questions from different levels of math and emphasis on potential issues for students with visual impairments. The FAST Math Best EOCs sample test material. And so we're talking about grades 3 to 8 math and the EOCs for math, which is algebra and geometry. They have questions presented in a table format. These are all presented the same way. Each row heading is presented separately, followed by its corresponding answer choices listed vertically. They have one or more shaded boxes for answers to be written on Braille paper. So in Braille, the shaded boxes are shown as blanks. In UEBN, they would be shown as either a low line or a long dash, depending on the context. In UEBMS, they're always low lines. And then having editing task questions containing multiple blanks with answers. So usually blanks are labeled with the parenthesis 1 or parenthesis 2, etc. The answer choices are moved to the bottom and follow the blank with the blank line identifier, parenthesis 1 or ... parenthesis 2, respectively. The exception to this is when the item is better presented in Braille using the print format. And we're going to show you examples of all of this. So FAST Math Grade 4 STM, multiple shaded response boxes. So this example is showing when there are multiple shaded response boxes, which are shown as blanks in the Braille version, and the students are directed to write their answers on their Braille paper. I'm going to go to the Braille version. There's no running head with any math STM. So I'm going to include it here, but not on the other slides for math, because we don't have to worry about the running head. The item identifier number 4 with the first sentence is in 1.5. The bullets are in 1.3. There's a 2-cell bullet symbol, the blank space, and then the content with a blank line before the first bullet and after the last bullet. Paragraph 2, which is the question, is in 7.5. Paragraph 3, which is the directions, is in 7.5. And transcribers view these simply be new paragraphs within the exercise material, and all exercise material is a nested list. This has 2 levels, the opening content, 1.5, and the answer section, 3.5, with a bulleted list in the middle. Answer section with shaded response boxes, the blanks in Braille, are in 3.5. Only one image of the Braille needed to be shown because it is brailled the exact same way in both UEBMS and UEBN. This is because there's no special math symbols included, just regular numbers which are read without difficulty in either code. FAST Math Grade 8 STM, multiple shaded response boxes, example 2. The second example of multiple stated response boxes shows them inserted into a math expression. I'm going to go to the Braille. The boxes are shown as blanks in the Braille version, and the students are directed to write their answers on their Braille paper. So the basic formatting, the item identifier 9 with the first sentence is in 1-3. The displayed expression is in 5-5. Paragraph 2, which is the directions, is in 5-3. So Nemeth refers to this as a subparagraph. And you can see that in Nemeth 2022, section 26.1.2a. The answer section with shaded response boxes, the blanks in Braille, are in 5-5. And so now, comparing the UEBN version to the UEBMS version. So in UEBN, notice that in the Nemeth version, the first opening Nemeth indicator is at the end of the Braille line just prior to the expression, after the item identifier and the first sentence. When using opening and closing Nemeth indicators, they have a space before and after them. There are no blank lines between the expression and the rest of the content. This is because Nemeth rules do not allow for blank lines within itemized material. See Nemeth 2022, section 26.4.3. The first closing Nemeth indicator is placed after the end of the first expression. Since the shaded response box / blanks are within the expression that contains special math symbols, another opening Nemeth code indicator must be used. It is placed at the end of the previous line, and long dashes are used for the blanks because those are the correct omission symbols for Nemeth. The Nemeth terminator is at the end of the expression. For UEBMS, the basic formatting is the same. The difference here is there are no opening or closing Nemeth indicators. Blank lines are included before and after the first displayed equation. Low lines are used instead of long dashes. Fast Math Grade 5 STM table formatting and multiple blank formatting. This example is showing one-way editing path can be shown in print with blanks followed by answer choices in brackets. It is an example of when multiple blank formatting is used in Braille. So I'm going to go to the Braille. You've got the item identifier number 7 with the first sentence in 1-5. The table enclosed in box lines, so columns 2 blank cells, columns have 2 blank cells apart. A line, dot 5, followed by a series of dots 5. Separate column headings from entries. The length of the line needs to match the width of the longest entry in the column. The question and directions are in 7-5. It's modified to read for each blank, write the letter of the. The answer section with blank line identifiers replacing the answer choices is in 3-5. So for example, the first one reads in Braille, at most, colon, and then you have a low line, parentheses, 1, close parentheses. Blank line identifiers repeated below the answer section with the corresponding answer choices listed vertically. So the blank line identifiers are in 5-5, immediately followed by the answer choices without a blank line. Answer choices are in 3-5. The blank line space between each set of blank line identifiers with their answer choices. Comparing the UEBN version to the UEBMS version, the formatting's the same. For the Nemeth, the only difference from the UEBMS version is that in the Nemeth version, the opening and closing Nemeth indicators are needed before and after the mixed number fractions inside the first and last table entries in the second column for amount. All right, Fast Math Grade 5 Sample Test Materials Multiple Box Formatting. So this example shows the second way editing tasks can be shown in print with boxes inserted that contain answer choices. It's another example of when multiple blank formatting is used in Braille. Let's go to our Braille. Item identifier 9 with the first sentence is in 1.5. Displayed expression is in 7.7. The question and directions are in 7.5. It's modified to read for each blank, write the letter of the. The sentence with blank line identifiers replacing the boxes with the answer choices in 7.5. The blank line identifier is repeated below the sentence with the blank line identifier. The repeated blank line identifiers are in 5.5, immediately followed by the answer choices without a blank line. The answer choices are in 3.5. There's a blank line space between each set of blank line identifiers with their corresponding answer choices. Comparing the Nemeth version to the UEBMS version, the formatting is almost the same. In the UEBN, the only difference from the UEBMS version is that in the Nemeth version, the opening and closing Nemeth indicators are needed before and after the displayed expression, and Nemeth does not include blank lines before and after this expression, but UEBMS does include blank lines before and after. Notice that this time in the UEBN version, the opening Nemeth indicator was placed prior to the beginning of the expression instead of at the end of the previous Braille line. Fast Math Grade 5 STM Multiple Box Formatting Example 2. This example shows how editing pass boxes can be inserted into math expressions in the print. Since this, and they call it a decomposed number with the box answer choices, you've got number 35, a box, plus number 71, a box, plus number 4, and a box, would not fit across the width of one Braille page in all versions if it was brailled as shown in print. Multiple blank formatting needed to be used. However, there needed to be a way to distinguish the blank line identifier numbers from the numbers that are part of the decomposed numbers. We're going to go to the Braille. The square brackets were chosen to enclose and separate the blank line identifier numbers because while parentheses are likely to be encountered in grade 5 math, square brackets are not often used in grade 5 math. The formatting of this item is the same as the last example until the decomposed number. Therefore, the information on this slide and the next slide is going to focus more on the decomposed number. Blank line identifiers and answer choices. So the item identifier 5 with the first sentence is in 1.5. The displayed number is in 7.7. No blank line before and after in Nemeth, blank line before and after in UEBMS. Question and the directions are in 7.5. And it's modified to read for each blank, write the letter of the. So unique to this item, because of using square brackets, a transcriber's note is inserted next using 7.5 without a blank line separating it from the question or directions. And the TN reads, open TN symbol. In the following equation, answer choices for each blank are replaced with the numbers 1, 2, and 3 within square brackets. These numbers are not part of the equation. The answer choices for each blank are listed after the equation, and then close TN symbol. Even though the decomposed number could fit on this first Braille page of the item, the decomposed number and the answer choices are all moved to the next Braille page so they stay together on the same Braille page. The decomposed number is in 7-9. The blank line identifiers are repeated below the decomposed number containing the original blank line identifiers within numbers in square brackets. The repeated blank line identifiers are in 5-5, immediately followed by the answer choices without a blank line. The answer choices are in 3-5. The blank line space between each set of blank line identifiers with their answer choices. So comparing the Nemeth version to the UEBMS version. So the formatting is almost the same. The only difference is the blank line spacing before and after the displayed number with a decimal. UEBN, other than this formatting difference, the Nemeth version has the opening and closing Nemeth indicators before and after the number with the decimal point, with a decimal, and before and after the decomposed number. Since the blanks replacing the boxes are included within the Nemeth indicators, the long dash must be used for the blanks within the blank line identifiers, and therefore to keep things consistent, the repeated blank line identifiers will continue to be long dashes enclosed in Nemeth opening and closing indicators. Okay, best geometry STM, multi-blank formatting. This example shows how editing past blanks can be inserted into math expressions in print. This trigonometric ratio, that's what they call it, a trigonometric ratio, includes blanks containing answer choices within the top and bottom parts of a fraction written linearly in print. So I'm going to switch to the Braille. Typically, this type of equation with the fraction would be written horizontally in Braille symbols. Therefore, multiple blank formatting seemed to be the better choice for adapting this item instead of trying to create it as shown in print using a tactile graphic. However, there needed to be a way to distinguish the blank line identifier numbers from the numbers that are part of the equation in the answer choices. Square brackets were again chosen to enclose and separate the blank line identifier numbers. The formatting of this item is the same as the last example until we get to the trigonometric ratio. And so please note that this example took 3 slides to present. The first slide shows the print. The next slide shows the UEBN contracted version, and the following slide shows the UEBMS contracted version. And most of the discussion is going to be about this Nemeth version, so I'm going to hang out on this one, but hopefully you can see all of it. So item identifier 5 with the first sentence is in 1-5. The question and directions are in 7-5. The last sentence reads, for each part of the ratio, fill in the bubble before the number that is correct. So it's modified to read, for each blank, write the letter of the number that is correct. Again, a transcriber's note inserted next using 7-5 without a blank line separating it from the question or directions. We got TN, the TN reads open TN symbol. In the following equation, the answer choices for each blank are replaced with the numbers 1 and 2 within square brackets. These numbers are not part of the equation. The answer choices for each blank are listed after the equation and then close TN symbol. Even though the trigonometric ratio could fit on this first Braille page of the item, it is moved with the answer choices to be all together on the next Braille page. The trigonometric ratio is in 5-7. The blank line identifiers are repeated below the trigonometric ratio containing the original blank line identifiers with numbers in square brackets. Repeated blank line identifiers are in 5-5, immediately followed by the answer choices without a blank line, and the answer choices are in 3-5. A blank line space between each set of blank line identifiers with their answer choices. Comparing the UEBN version to the UEBMS version, the formatting is the same. It only looks different because the UEBN version has the opening nemeth indicator in cell 1 on Braille line 1, and the UEBMS version starts the trigonometric ratio on Braille line 1, but it runs over onto Braille line 2. For the UEBN, since the entire trigonometric ratio is all in math content, notice that the opening nemeth indicator is the first thing on this Braille page, and the closing nemeth indicator is the last thing on the Braille page, not counting the Braille page number. This means that everything on this page is Brailled in nemeth, and therefore the letter identifiers A, B, and C all have the English letter indicators before the letters and the punctuation indicators prior to the periods. And then we've got our UEBMS version. All right, Fast Best Math EOCs in Braille for mixed formatting response items. So on the Fast Math tests and the Best Math EOCs, your algebra and geometry, there are items with combined formatting and different types of questions within Part A and Part B. So we're going to see examples on the next slides. So in the Best Algebra 1 STM, there's mixed formatting. This example shows mixed formatting of a shaded response box followed by an editing task box containing multiple choice answers included at the end of a sentence or paragraph, depending on how you view the print. I'm going to refer to them as sentences. I'm going to go to the Braille. The item identifier 3 with the first sentence is in 1.5. The sentences or paragraphs are in 7.5. The third sentence is modified to read, write your response for the first blank below on your Braille paper and write the letter of the correct unit to complete the sentence. At the end of the fourth sentence, a low line followed by parenthesis 1 plus parentheses replaces the shaded response box, and a low line followed by parentheses 2 close parentheses replaces the editing task box with the multiple choice answers. A blank Braille line precedes the repeated blank line identifier low line parentheses 2, which is in 5.5, and the answer choices follow on the next Braille line in 3.5. Blank line identifier, low line, parenthesis 1, close parentheses, doesn't not need be repeated because it is a shaded response box and does not contain answer choices. Students just write their answer on their Braille paper. In the UEBN, the only difference between the UEBN and UEBMS versions are the opening and closing nemeth code indicators before and after the math content. Note that in both the UEBN and UEBMS versions, the preference is to keep the math expression all together on the same Braille line, even if it leaves much of the previous Braille line blank. Fast Math Grade 7 STM mixed formatting. This example shows mixed formatting of an editing task blank containing multiple choice answers followed by a shaded response box. I'm going to go to the Braille. The item identifier 5 with the first sentence is in 1.5. Displayed inequality is in 7.7. There's no blank line before and after in UEBN. There is a blank line before and after in UEBMS. The second sentence is modified. It's going to be in 7.5. Write the letter of the correct inequality symbol and write your response for the following blank on your Braille paper to represent the solution to the inequality. Displayed answer blank and box are in 7.7. No blank line before or after in nemeth, blank line before and after in UEBMS. The editing task blank replaced with low line, parentheses 1 close parentheses, shaded response box replaced with low line without a number since it is not needed. Blank line precedes the repeated blank line identifier with its answer choices. The repeated blank line identifier, low line parentheses 1 is in 5-5. The answer choices are in 3-5. The UEBN versus UEBMS, the opening and closing Nemeth indicators and symbols, including in this instance that all the multiple choice answers are within Nemeth indicators. Therefore, the letter identifiers A and B all have the English letter indicators before the letters and the punctuation indicators prior to the periods. Blank lines are not included with displayed material in Nemeth, but they are included for UEBMS. All right, Fast Math Grade 8 STM, mixed formatting. So this example shows mixed formatting of a shaded response box and an editing pass box containing multiple choice answers inserted inside a math expression. I'm going to go to the Braille. We've got item identifier 4 with the first sentence in 1-5. Displayed expression is in 7-7. No blank line before and after in Nemeth, blank line before and after in UEBMS. The second sentence is modified. It's in 7-5. Write your response for the blank below on your Braille paper and write the letter of the correct power of 10 to show the value of the expression in scientific notation. Answer boxes 3-5. The answer boxes are in 3-5, blank line before and after each tactile graphic. Shaded response box replaced with a low line without a number since it is not needed. The editing pass box presented as shown in print and therefore made into a tactile graphic with a physical box. UEBN versus UEBMS. Opening and closing Nemeth indicators and symbols, including in this instance that all the multiple choice answers are within the Nemeth indicators. Therefore, the English letter identifiers A and B all have the English letter indicators before the letters and the punctuation indicators prior to the periods. Blank lines are not included for the displayed material in Nemeth, but they are for the UEBMS. All right, best geometry STM, mixed formatting with proof. So we've got, this example shows mixed formatting by including editing past blanks with multiple choice answers into Braille formatting. So please note that this example took 3 slides to present. The first slide shows the print, the next one shows the Nemeth contracted version, and the following slide shows the UEBMS uncontracted version. And I'm going to go to the Braille. So first, it's important to know how proofs shown in print tables are converted into Braille. Proofs in Braille are enclosed in bottom and top box lines with each item presented in 1-3. The print column form for proofs is changed in Braille. Each item from the reason column is placed beneath its matching item from the statement column. Letter cap S for cap statement or cap R for cap reason are placed immediately after the appropriate step. For the items that have editing pass blanks with multiple choice answers, multiple blank formatting is used, so the blanks with the answer choices are replaced by blank line identifiers such as low line parentheses 1, low line parentheses 2, and low line parentheses 3. The blank line identifiers are repeated in 5-5 after the proof with their corresponding answer choices immediately following in 3-5. A blank line should separate each set of blank line identifiers with their answer choices. In this example, all the repeated blank line identifiers with answer choices were moved to a third Braille page to keep them together. The UEBN versus the UEBMS, the formatting is the same. The only difference is when opening and closing Nemeth indicators and symbols are used, especially for blank line identifiers, paren 1 and paren 2. Answer choices were the English letter and punctuation indicators are included. And then you've got your UEBMS version. Math table format. So each row heading is presented separately, followed by its corresponding answer choices listed vertically. Row headings can be pictures such as graphs or shapes. If there are no row headings, then each column heading is presented separately, followed by its corresponding answer choices listed vertically. And the exception to this is when, due to the content, it's best to present the table as shown in print and it'll fit on one Braille page. So this type of formatting is shown within all the grade levels, grades 3 to 8 math and the EOC's algebra and geometry in the sample test materials. In Braille, each row heading is presented separately, followed by its corresponding answer choices listed vertically. The row headings can be anything, including three-dimensional figures, graphs, etc., but it is handled the same way. The 3D figure or graph as the row heading, and then the answer choices following listed. If there are no row headings, like we said, then the column heading is presented separately with the answer choices. All right. So fast math, grade 7 STM, table format 1. We're going to go to the Braille. The item identifier is 4 with the first sentence in 1-5. The sentence is modified to read from fill in the bubbles to match to write the letters to match. The table presented one row at a time with a blank line before and after each row. The row heading is in 5-5. The answer choices are in 3-5. UABN versus UABMS, opening and closing Nemeth indicators and symbols. Notice the opening Nemeth code indicator is at the end of the first sentence. The row heading and all the answer choices are math content. So everything is done in Nemeth and the Nemeth terminator is placed at the end of the last answer choice. This means including the English letter and punctuation indicators in the Nemeth version for the answer choice letter in the identifier. Fast Math grade 8 will format number 2. We've got, I'm going to go to the Braille. The item identifier 5 with the first sentences in 1-5. Sentences modified from fill in the bubbles to identify to write the letters to identify. The table presented one row at a time with a blank line before each row. The row heading is in 7-7. This grade 8 math STM and the previous grade 7 math STM were transcribed by 2 different transcribers. As we have stated, transcribing is an art as well as a science, and it all depends on how the transcriber interprets the print. In the last example, the transcriber was probably presenting the row headings as cell 5 headings. In this example, the transcriber was probably interpreting these as a series of displayed equations or subparagraphs and therefore used cell 7 headings. This print layout is not covered in any guidelines, but each transcriber was consistent within their test, and the student is still getting the information clearly, regardless of what cell this content appears in. The answer choices are in 3-5. UABN versus UABMS, opening and closing Nemeth indicators and symbols. Notice the adjustments in the placement of the opening and closing Nemeth code indicators because only the row headings are math content and the answer choices are words that you would want to use contractions within, which is not allowed while in Nemeth mode. So the opening Nemeth indicators are placed prior to the beginning of the row headings and the Nemeth terminators are included at the end of the row headings. The answer choices with the words are regular UEB with contractions. So fast math, grade 3 STM, table format with pictograph, number 3, example 3. So the most intelligent way to present this item in Braille was to create it as shown in print with the key move to follow the title favorite book. So let's go to the Braille. The item identifier with the first sentence, the bullets, and the last sentence are together on the first Braille page, which I give information about, but we did not include in the picture of the Braille because they're all done in UEB. There is no math content that necessitates switching to Nemeth. You've got You'll have the item identifier 3 with the first paragraph in 1-5. The bullets will be in 1-3. The 2-cell bullet symbol, a blank space, and the content with a blank line before the first bullet and after the last bullet. Second paragraph is in 5-3. The second sentence is modified from for each box, fill in the bubble before the correct number or picture, to for each box, write the letter of the correct number or picture. Notice that since this is presented as shown in print, the terminology of box is retained instead of changing them to blanks because the tactile graphics have physical boxes included. Title, favorite book is a centered heading with a blank line after. The blank line is not needed before because it is on Braille line 1 since there's no running head. Next is the key, which is enclosed in opening and closing transcribers note symbols. UABN versus UABMS. The only difference between the two Braille codes in this key, which needs to be in Nemeth because of the equal sign. Since the opening Nemeth indicator is placed after the word key on the first line, the answer choice letters include the English letter and punctuation indicators, and then the Nemeth terminator immediately precedes the closing transcriber's note indicator. So the TN symbols are the first thing in the key and the last thing in the key. Science test structure sample test material examples. So most questions are multiple choice. Science can include complex tactile graphics. Science can also include tables, some of which can be long, transcribe according to Braille formats. If you have access to STMs, use them for examples. All right, so please note that unlike the rest of the PowerPoint, the notes for this slide and the next two slides will be unique to each slide. Some of the relevant information is repeated regarding the first Braille page of the item. And so this is the Statewide Science Biology 1 STM table formatting. This example shows the complexity of the tables included in science assessments and how they can be formatted differently in different Braille codes. For more information about how to convert tables into Braille, reference SANA's Braille Formats Principles of Print Braille Transcription 2016, Section 11, Tables and Related Columns. I'm going to go to the Braille. The first Braille page for this item, Braille page 9, in UEBN contracted is shown on the left, and the second Braille page 10, is shown on the right. There is a third Braille page to finish this item, Braille page 11, which we are not showing you, but it is described in the notes below and mentioned in the last sub-bullet on the previous slide 91. So Braille page 9, the running head, you've got Biology 1 sample item centered on line 1. The item identifier 3 with the first paragraph is in 1-5. No blank line between this and the running head. The last sentence is modified. The table on the next two pages shows. The table moved to the end because it spans two Braille pages. So the question is in 7-5. The print shows the question in block formatting, but UEB with Nemeth transcription rules mandate that no blocked paragraphs be used. They shall all be indented. You have the answer choices in 3-5. On Braille page 10, on the right, the running head, you've got Biology 1 sample items centered on Braille line 1. The title of the table, all in caps, osmosis in cells, is a centered heading with a blank line before it. The top box line immediately follows it with no blank line between. A transcriber's note is inserted next, starting in cell 7. Open to end. Table change as follows. On the following Braille lines, the column headings are presented blocked in a stair-step format as follows. Solution, blocked in 1-1. Average mass of eggs before soaking, parentheses grams, blocked in 3-3. Average mass of eggs soaked after soaking, in parentheses, grams blocked in 5.5. Difference in average mass, parentheses, grams blocked in 7.7. Percent change in average mass blocked in 9.9 with the closing transcriber's note indicator at the end of the line. A blank line is inserted next to separate the TN from the first row, followed by the opening Nemeth indicator in cell 1 on the next Braille line. On the following Braille line after this, the same stair-step format is repeated with the information from the first row in the table. So vinegar, 95% water, blocked in 1.1. 71.2 blocked in 3.3. 98.6 blocked in 5.5. 27.4 blocked in 7.7. Plus sign 38.5 blocked in 9.9. If there was room on this page for another row, it would be added on the next Braille line, no blank line between the rows. Since there was not room, the next two rows were done on the next Braille page. Braille page 11, these last two rows are done the same way, starting on Braille line 2 under the running head with no blank line between the second and third rows. A blank line would follow the last row. The Nemeth terminator would start in cell 1 of the next Braille line. Then the table would end with the bottom box line, a blank line, and a page change indicator on consecutive Braille lines. Using the stair-step layout for the Nemeth version allowed the transcriber to open and close Nemeth easily for each row. If the transcriber had used the listed table format for both versions, the Nemeth version would have needed to open and close Nemeth after each column heading, since it is repeated before every entry. Stair-step was shorter for Nemeth and avoided over switching. The UEBMS version could have been created in stair-step as well for consistency, but the student has to return to the TN repeatedly to interpret the information and find Braille that starts far over to the right side of the page. The preference is ease of reading over consistency, and stair-step is only used when there are specific benefits, such as the shorter length and avoiding over switching in and out of Nemeth. This may be why UEBMS was done differently. And let's go to UEBMS. All right, the first
So
Braille
Kathy,
page. Yes.
Kathy, so you're so close. We're so close, guys. There was like one slide left here, but it's 3:28, and I want to make sure we don't go too far over our time here. So I think maybe we stop there. But that was awesome. I hope everyone feels so much more prepared to address Braille formats and make sure that students are getting what they need. But yes, there's only one slide left, the UEB Math Science. So you all have the handout, or we'll make sure you get the handout if you want to go back and see that example too. But I think we'll stop there, and then I'll let you go to the next slide.
Okay. All right, so you got your resources, and that'll take you to these documents we were talking about, and these should be your primary resources. If you have a question, you should go to these, because these are the rule books, the code books, and the guidelines. And I don't know if we have time for questions, but you can always write to us and ask us questions, and we'll get you answers.
Definitely. Yeah, we are more than happy to help in any way that we can. And so this is our contact information. Anderson at FIMC-VI.org is my email address. And Kathy K and Karen, you have their emails there too. It's also on our website on the contact us page if you're ever unsure of what our email addresses are. But please do reach out. And to wrap up here, so we do ask that you do an evaluation for us to make sure that so we can use that feedback to develop future trainings and make sure we're giving you the resources that you need. So the QR code for that is on the left side of the screen. I can grab the link from our website as well. It's the same evaluation form that we use for all of our trainings. And I will also go ahead and tell you that our closing code for this, which you're going to use the QR code and for the form that's on the right side of the screen, is begin. So your closing code is begins. And so when you go to that form and fill it out, then you will receive a certificate, which you will need to submit to your district or to DOE to get credit for this training. So they have to accept that in order for you to get credit. But while we have that on the screen, let me just grab here our links.
Do you want me to go to the next one or just stay here?
Okay.
And then the last slide just gives you our new address and then some information and links, and you can sign up for the newsletter. But I'll go back to this one.
Okay. Yes, I've got the in-service credit form in there and then our evaluation form. Those look like, are those, did I just copy? No, those are different. Sometimes they look very similar, but those are different. And I'm going to go ahead and stop my recording.